All right, welcome everyone. Holding by Pirke Avos. Again, want to welcome everyone. Holding by Pirke Avos, as it's for our fathers, as it is known. We are holding by chapter 2. We're holding by chapter 2, Mishna 14. We are in part 2. Again, we're at chapter 4, Ethics for Fathers, Pirke Avos. Chapter 14, chapter 2, Mishna 14, part 2. So, spoke last week. The Mishna says that he shall say to them, or he said to them, go out and discern which is the evil path from which a man should distance himself. Rabbi Lezer says an evil eye. Rabbi Shua says a wicked friend. Rabbi Yosef says a wicked neighbor, etc. So we spoke last week why the Mishnah states that you stay away from these evil things, right? Because the Mishnah before we spent a long time going through, but the Mishnah before said this is a good thing, right? These are go out and discern the good path. All right, so we said, well, isn't the opposite, don't I have a mirror opposite over here? If I do this, this is good, this is a good path. If I do this, is a bad path, and the answer is no. The reason is because certain things, do not fit in this category. They could be bad. Doesn't necessarily mean it makes you wicked, per se, or anywhere in between, right? So that's why we spent last week going through that as well. This idea that, we said, isn't the evil path just the opposite of good, right? And seemingly something's good, well, you'll tell me the opposite is bad, and it's not necessarily true, right? Because we mentioned that the trait of being righteous and doing things beyond, the letter of the law, it's good, but someone who doesn't do that doesn't mean they're bad, right? So there could be any number of, things that are in the middle, over here. That just because it's not good doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, or vice versa. Yeah. So the next part of the Mishnah says an evil eye. Right now, what's considered an evil eye over here? One explanation is a person see things and judge them as being bad. In other words, nothing good, right? It's all bad, right? The person views it as being bad. Not only that, they're not happy, right? They're not happy with what they have. And they're jealous. They're definitely jealous of others. And they don't judge them. Favorably. So, what do I see over here? Right. First of all, they see things as, it's bad. They definitely see things as bad. And they don't judge favorably. And everything is bad. Right? Nothing that's good, seemingly. Right? It's a problem. Too much, obviously too much negativity. They're jealous of others. They don't judge favorably. We'll speak about that. They also say negative things about their rabbi. Can't imagine that. Right? And God, have doubts about major tenets of Judaism, like is the Torah from God? Where's the Torah come from? What do I have to listen to the rabbis? And they don't merit to understand the Torah and only skew its message. This is a loaded thing over here. Yeah, we're going to take it step by step. So the beginning, we mentioned that people see things as being bad. They judge them as being bad. Now, from our perspective, from our puny minds, we see things, we don't know how to look at them. In other words, on the outside, it looks bad. Right? But the reality is, it's not bad. A person, has to catch a plane. And all things, going wrong. But they still potentially have the opportunity to catch the plane. Right? What happens? They end up missing the plane. So now they're going to make different plans. It's inconvenience, all these different things. But what happened? The plane goes down. So you see, we see that as being bad. And we're inconvenienced. All these other things happened. I had to be in a certain place. But when you find out later the plane went down, you're not so upset. We don't know how to view things. God does not open up our eyes and show us. And show us, well, you think, okay, your car just got hit. Maybe it did damage. Maybe a lot of damage. Yeah, you physically not necessarily damaged. A little bit shaken up, but you're not damaged. Now, you're going to say that's bad. Totally inconvenienced. You have to deal with the insurance, the other person, this, that, all kinds of things. Maybe injuries. Now, again, these things, certainly look bad. What if God would open up your mind, right? Open up your mind over here and show you that worse things are supposed to happen to you. Maybe even, God forbid, your life was supposed to be taken. But God had mercy. So instead of taking your life, what did he do? He inconvenienced you, damaged your property. So again, we can't see the goods. Something like that happens and you come out without a scratch, let's say. Stories, the car is getting demolished. Person comes out without a scratch. So something like that, it's easier to see. Because you came out without a scratch over here. Or minimal damage. Right? Or minimal damage done. That's easier to see. Other things are harder to see. Yeah, but not everything we see is bad. It looks bad. Somebody dies and can die tragically, this and that. Okay, we don't understand. We can't make heads or tails out of it. So you say, well, isn't that bad? Looks bad. Person can be in the highest level of Gan Eden right now, right? The highest level of paradise. But at the same time, people that love them, are stuck behind. And what's one of the hardest blessings to make? Certainly for a Jew, that is someone dies, they're obligated to mourn for. Mother, father, sister, brother, God forbid, a child. Yeah, or a spouse. Before they get buried, what's the blessing you have to make? Baruch Dayan Emet. That God is a true judge. Why do you have to make that blessing? You have to make that blessing because you have to acknowledge where it comes from. Life and death are in the hands of God. We could be negligent. We could be foolish and still God saves us. Yeah. Or we get injured, but it's minor. There are many things that we do that go against Kaufman's 614th commandment. Don't be stupid. Yeah. You do something. You did it to yourself. Took a risk that you shouldn't have taken. And what happens? God looks out for you for whatever reason. Sometimes you might get injured. Sometimes you might get badly injured. Yeah. Sometimes you come out without anything, without even a scratch. Right? So things like that I could understand. You can't judge that in a bad way. Right? Okay, whatever happened, happened. But the fact you came out of it, you're complete, you're whole, maybe injured a little bit here, there, whatever. Right? But essentially you're whole. You're whistling Dixie over here. You're doing the jitterbug. You're doing the moonwalk. I don't know how to do the moonwalk, but let's say you're doing all these things because you're going to say, wow, it's really lucky. No. We don't believe in luck. Everything has to do with divine providence. But over here, what's the problem? What does the Mishnah say? Right? What does the Mishnah say? Rabbi Eliezer says what? Rabbi Eliezer, sorry. Rabbi Eliezer says an evil eye. The evil eye means you don't look at anyone favorably. You judge everything in a negative way. This is bad. That's bad. The other thing's bad. Right? There are people out there. There are people out there that what? That see things as always being bad and always negative, no matter what. They may have livelihoods. They may have all kinds of things. Health. Many, many things they're thankful for, but everything's negative. Everything's bad. They don't see the goodness that they have. Now, what's someone going to say, obviously? These things are bad. Life is hard. Right? We spoke about this many times. Life is hard. Life is a struggle. True. No one says it isn't. Life is a struggle. Okay. And I guarantee, whatever a person goes through in life, let's say, they have their annual physical. Go to the doctor, most things check out, fine, very good. Take a blood test. Next day, get a frantic call. Secretary calls, the doctor's got to come in right away. They don't tell you anything. They just say you got to come in right away. That person, their life stops. They're thinking the worst thing, right? The big C word, cancer. They're thinking the worst thing. And it could be, or it could not be, or it can be treated, or whatever. What happened to everything you were worried about before? And this bothered you, and that bothered you, and the other thing bothered you. I grew up among older people when I was a kid, and I kept hearing over and over and over again. It's a true statement. Can't take it for granted, right? And that is, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. Now that's a true statement, because I mean, not necessarily true, right? Let me clarify. It doesn't mean if you don't have health, you have nothing, but it's much harder to do things. Person's in pain. Person can't get up. Person can't walk. Person can't eat. There are things limiting you from enjoying this world. Okay, people take care of you. People help you. This, that. But when it makes life much more difficult. Can people overcome? Yeah. Can their mentality change? Yeah. Doesn't mean it's not nothing. But in the secular world, I can't do what I want when I want. That means life's not worth living. I remember someone had a stroke, something, I guess, got knocked around in their brain a little bit, and they realized, they don't want to go through rehabilitation. They didn't want to work hard, right? So they won't do anything. Life isn't worth living. Life isn't worth living. Can't do what you used to do. Can't eat what you used to eat. Life is very different now, right? So someone says, the person's brain's so messed up, they can't even play Sudoku. Heard this with my own ears. That's the meaning of life. I can't play Sudoku. Maybe, if I was in my right mind, I couldn't play it anyway. So that's the meaning of life. Oh, he's definitely changed. She's definitely changed. They don't even get benefit from that. Like, that's the essence of life. So what happened? This person didn't want to get help. Didn't want to work on themselves. Didn't want to go through rehabilitation. Could have lived a number of years. Nothing stopping them from living except their mentality. And what was their mentality? Their mentality is, life is not worth living. Why is it not worth living? You can't play Sudoku. Scrabble. Can't do that. What they do, they don't want to eat. They give up their will to live. And I'll tell you what happens. If someone has the ability to get better, and go through rehabilitation, whatever it takes, and that's going to put them on the right path, they might be limited what they can do afterward. Okay. But they can still live. So what happens? But they get this thing in their head. And they say, well, I can't do the same things I used to. Okay. Can't do the same thing. Yeah, so what does that mean? Right? Well, what does that mean essentially? It means I'm not going to have quote unquote same quality of life. Yeah. So what do they do? So what do some people do? They give up the will to live. The doctors will tell you, and this has been proven scientifically, if a person gives up their will to live, they'll die quicker. Not about medication, not about anything else. Person has to have the will to live. And if they don't have the will to live, they'll atrophy. I know someone else had a major stroke also. Same thing. Same thing. They didn't want to rehabilitate. They could have. They could have. They didn't want to. They just gave up the will to live. Yeah. Something in their brain shifted and said, well, I'm not going to have quality of life. Won't be able to do this, won't be able to do that. This will be harder, that'll be harder. Right? So life is not worth living. It's a huge topic. Huge topic. Yeah. Somebody like that, what happened? Same thing. They gave up the will to live. They died. They died a month later. It's on the person, same thing. They want to eat, whittled away to nothing, had to go in the hospice, and that was it. That was their choice. They made a conscious choice. Yeah, they made a conscious choice. So they decided, based on whatever, life's not worth living. Right? But, we don't realize what we have if we don't have it, once we don't have it. That's the only time we realize when something's taken away. But there's something that has to be taken away to realize what life is and what I'm living for. So you'd say, obviously, no. You'd say we know, we should know what we're living for. We should know what direction we want to go in. Different things. We should know what's important to us. But what happens? We get carried away in what we call life. Life knocks us down. Right? That's what it does. Makes life very hard to live. Very hard to live. Very hard to live in an ideal way. The way God wants. Because this is hard and that's hard. The other thing's hard. I hear it all the time. I'm going to tell you, it's kind of depressing. Kind of depressing. You're going to say, well, your life's not easy. Right? Life isn't easy. Life's not easy. Not supposed to be easy. So what? I should give up? Gotta put my best foot forward. Gotta do what I need to do. Doesn't always come out the way we want. Okay? So what? You're going to be miserable? Take it out on others? Could? It's a very depressing way to live. Also, it's wrong. Right? In other words, you take it out on someone else, they deserve it. Right? They don't deserve it. Doesn't matter if you're going through a hard time. Why do they deserve it? Why do you think someone else is a scapegoat? Forbidden. Totally forbidden. So there are people who don't understand what they do have. And what we have is we're living in the lap of luxury. You're going to say, lap of luxury, I'm in debt this way, I'm in debt that way, I got other things. Lap of luxury? Yeah. Go back 100 years. Go back 100 years when people were living. By World War I, World War II, people were starving. They have money. We're living the lap of luxury. Some better, some worse. Doesn't matter. No one's on the street starving. No one is on the street starving. Even if you don't own your own house or apartment, it doesn't matter. You're not living in freezing conditions. You're not living without food. Some better, some worse. Whatever it is, we forget. This is a basic thing. I'm not saying anything that's not obvious, but we don't think in these terms. We don't. We whittle away in self-pity because this is hard, that's hard, the other thing's hard. It's true. It's all hard. Everyone according to their own situation. Life is hard. Life is depressing. Right? You want to be really depressed? Watch the news. Follow the news. What goes on? Depressing. Totally depressing. You got, someone who dies, family can't sustain themselves, kids to marry off, different things. Happens all the time. All the time. And I always say to myself when I hear these things, I was like, yeah, I also have it hard in different ways. I don't have that. Thankful I don't have that. It's all perspective, right? A lot of it has to do with perspective over here. So an evil eye means somebody that sees things as always being bad, and they judge them as being bad. Now, some things are hard, I agree. But in the bigger scheme of things, not as bad as we think. We live in a, what Kaufman will say is a cream puff generation, right? Which is true, right? We live in a very weak generation. That's what we do. That's what it is. But at the same time, they forget what they have. Right? I've heard someone, complain about this, that, and the other thing, and and I mentioned, like, you're not waiting around, you're not thinking how you're going to get your next meal. You're not thinking you don't have a roof over your head. You're not thinking, well, I don't have what, I'm working 3 jobs and this and that, I can't make ends meet, and and having all kinds of difficulty. You're not thinking in those terms. You don't have those tests. Those are not the tests. Okay, if other tests, fine. People forget. People do not realize what they have until they don't have it. But they moan all the time. This, that, and this, they don't realize how wealthy they are. And I'm not even talking monetary terms. They forget. I shouldn't even say they forget. They probably don't forget. They don't realize. They don't realize. I know someone once told me, they said they can't imagine. They can't imagine, people struggle. Like people, let's say better, that people, what's the word? That they live in the minus every month. They don't make enough money. So they're in the red every month. A lot of people here in Israel like that. I remember one time there was a statistic, that tens of millions of shekels, in the bank, in the mines. Some people survive. Some better, some worse. Whatever it may be. But then the excuse is, oh, look, all these people have big families. Yeah, I know people who don't have big families, they struggle. I have nothing to do with having a big family or a small family. God can provide either way. 100%. But it didn't even dawn on them. But they'll make 150,000 excuses. Oh, they should do this, they should do that. Most people don't have a degree. You ever hear that? You don't have a degree, that's why they struggle. Oh, yeah? I know people have degrees struggle. Nothing to do with having a degree or not. The degrees don't really matter anyway. One of the top 5 biggest lies in the world. You need a degree, in order to make money. Not true. Definitely not true. Does it help to know, more about different things? I don't know. I don't think so. But someone will tell me if I had a choice to hire someone, had a degree, not had a degree, I'll hire someone with a degree. Why? Because they've been brainwashed. Because they know they know a little bit about music appreciation. They took a course in sociology, other things. Yeah, there's some beneficial courses. I'm not going to say not. I know a number of people barely speak English are doing well. They're doing very well. So it doesn't mean anything. People are brainwashed and know it's because of that. Not true. Definitely not true. People give a lot more weight to it than it's worth. If you tell me you major in something practical that you're going to use without another degree, okay, I can hear such a thing. Yeah, but most things, you want to go into medicine, right? You have to have a first degree, right? Then you have to go on after that. Law degree, same thing, right? You need that for accounting? No, you don't need a degree for accounting. Some people may say, we won't take anyone if they don't have a degree or taking this program, whatever. But in a lot of cases, maybe not. So the things you don't need, you definitely don't need. Again, people have been brainwashed, totally brainwashed, to think such a thing. Right? What's the second part here? Second part is they're not happy with what they have. Very good. If they judge things as always being bad or many times being bad, then they're not going to be happy. right? They are definitely not going to be happy with what they have, right? And they're going to be jealous of others. Not only are they going to be jealous of others, they are not going to judge people favorably. There's an obligation. There's a Torah obligation to judge people favorably, right? Meaning, if the person keeps Torah mitzvahs, sometimes they sin. I'm not talking about totally righteous people here, right? All the more so totally righteous people, right? They do something wrong, and somebody sees them, in a compromising position, right? As the English would say, they find them in a situation that's a little bit dodgy, right? It's dodgy over here. Doesn't look good, right? And it looks like you should judge them more harshly than favorably. Yeah, they're in a compromising position. Comes along the Torah says you got to judge them favorably. If it's someone that's totally righteous, also, you have an obligation of, in a situation they look bad, to judge them favorably. Obligation, not a good idea. Obligation. Because we assume even if they did something wrong, right, even by such a righteous person, we assume by the next day they already repented. You say, how do you know? Someone asked me this recently. How do you know if they repented or not? If you're talking to someone who's very righteous, we're giving them the assumption that they did. You're going to say, how do I know? Maybe they didn't. If they're truly righteous, they did. If they're somewhere in the middle, they probably did also. Maybe they justified what they did. I don't know, but they probably did also, right? But then we're talking about someone who keeps Torah mitzvahs, and they might have made a mistake, or it looks like they made a serious mistake. You cannot judge them in a negative way. You have to judge them favorably. Someone's going to say, what if it's proven that they're guilty? Okay, that's a different issue. That's a different issue. But before that, I can assume they're not guilty. Chofetz Chaim says in the laws of Lashon Hara, you have an obligation, Torah obligation, because the Torah says you got to judge people favorably with righteousness. But what if the person's evil? What if you know the person doesn't keep Shabbos? What if you know they're intermarried? What if you know all kinds of things that they do bad? They don't keep Torah mitzvahs. Then there's an obligation to judge them negatively. I don't have to judge them favorably. The mitzvah not to judge them favorably. Why? Because look what they do. They spit in God's face every day. They don't care. They speak Lashon Hara habitually about other people. Right? They do all kinds of other transgressions. I don't have an obligation to judge them favorably. But someone who keeps Torah mitzvahs and they try, and they look, they're in a bad position over here. It looks like a bad position. We have to judge them favorably. Obligated, judge them favorably. Yeah, it's also a big topic. It's also a big topic because people make statements before they know the facts. Or they'll say, yeah, this person's probably guilty. If a person works on themselves, they try hard, you cannot judge them negatively. Even if it looks really bad. Because they try and keep Torah mitzvahs. They're keeping Torah mitzvahs. If you know someone failed at this once, twice, 3 times, okay, it might be a different issue. If I know someone is a serious transgressor of just about everything, no obligation. No obligation to judge them favorably, just the opposite. I have a mitzvah to judge them negatively. Why would I have to judge them favorably? Oh, people say you got to love everybody, this and that. King David says, again, let's make very clear. King David says in Tehillim, in Psalms, those who love you, I love. Meaning those who love God, I love. Those who hate God, I fight against. We don't just say those that hate God, we got to love them. We got to bring them closer. Yeah, we do have to bring them closer. That's true. Right? But that doesn't mean I have to love them. We don't have to love them. They're going against what God says. They spit in God's face every single second of every day, or most days. Yeah. Who says I have to, not only judge them favorably, I have to love them? Oh, well, someone's going to tell me. Someone's going to quote what the Torah says. Torah says, you have an obligation. What says in the book of Leviticus and Parshas Kedoshim, chapter 19, book of Leviticus, got an obligation to judge someone. You got an obligation to rebuke. So if I have an obligation to rebuke, that means whatever. That's a whole discussion of itself also. But when you have an obligation to rebuke, If someone does something wrong, you don't hate the person. You're not allowed, the Torah says, you're not allowed to hate a person. A Jew's not allowed to hate another Jew in their heart, i.e., that means I could hate a non-Jew in my heart if I wanted to. Right? That prohibition doesn't apply. Why? Because it says you got to love people of your people. Who are your people? Jews. Right? So a technical issue means non-Jews. I could absolutely hate non-Jews. What's the problem, though? What's the obvious problem? You don't want to, hating in general is very strong. Very, very strong. And at the same time, just because it's permissible doesn't necessarily mean it's good for me. Right? Not everything is permissible I'm allowed to do. Because it's not good for me. Maybe I'd say it's a moral imperative you shouldn't do it. We don't obligate it. Right? I'll give an example. The Ramban, beginning of Parshas Kedoshim. Right? Parshas Kedoshim. Well, let me just get it here. Leviticus chapter 19. Right? What does the book of Leviticus say at the beginning of chapter 19? All right, some people say I never quote anything, so let me knock that out. Torah says, chapter 19, verse 1, Hashem spoke to Moses, saying, verse 2, speak to the entire assembly of the children of Israel, i.e., speak to all Jews, tell them you shall be holy, for holy am I, Hashem your God. Very good. Right? So there's an obligation. The Torah says you got to be holy. You know why? Because God says you got to be holy. That's what God says. You got to be holy. Now, what does that mean? What does holy mean? Right? What does holy mean? Holy means, according to Rashi explains staying away from forbidden relationships. Right? Staying away from forbidden relationships. According to the Ramban, Nachmanides says, it means things that are permissible I'm allowed to do. Right? I'm allowed to eat, I'm allowed to drink, but who says I'm allowed to be a glutton? Who says I'm allowed to be 50 pounds overweight? Who says I'm allowed to be an alcoholic? Not allowed to. I'm allowed to drink. Okay. You can drink. Permissible to drink. Not a problem. Right? If you're of age. Or over the age of the drinking age. Very good. Who said you're allowed to be an alcoholic? Who said you're allowed to drink too much? Yeah. So therefore what? Therefore I can do things within the parameters of Torah. Even though it's permissible, I can be disgusting in God's eyes. Here you're going to tell me I'm allowed to eat, right? Here you're going to tell me I'm allowed to drink. Very good. Am I allowed to drink too much? No. Am I allowed to eat too much? No. I have to know how to do it. Right? I have to know how to do it over here. Right? So everything within reason. Everything has to have a purpose. I can't just abuse things, even if it's permissible. Like people say, if I do this, let's say, a person goes for a walk on Shabbos. They go for a walk on Shabbos, and they window shop. Right? They stand outside of a store. They look, they're looking at different things. Not intention to buy necessarily. Let's say we'll make it easy. They window shop. Is there a problem with that? According to Torah, technically, there's no problem. Right? I wouldn't say it's the best thing to do. Best way to spend your time on Shabbos. Okay. But at the end of the day, you didn't necessarily transgress. You didn't do anything wrong. You're disgusting in God's eyes, but you didn't do anything wrong. Why do I say disgusting in God's eyes? Because that's not what he wants you to do. I don't care if you're bored. So what if you're bored? That means you don't know how to tune into Shabbos properly. But at the same time, I'm doing things technically not a problem. Technically not a problem, but it can affect you in a negative way. Totally affect you. I'm not talking about where a person, let's say there's a museum you want to go to, on Shabbos. No problem with, going to electric doors and this and that. You pay for the ticket ahead of time. You don't have to carry it. You make a deal with them, this, that. And you go to this museum on Shabbos. So let's say no transgressions over here. None. You didn't buy the ticket on Shabbos. You're not going through electronic doors on Shabbos. Nothing forbidden. Question's going to be, is that the spirit of Shabbos? Is that what God wants me to do? Someone will say, I'm being entertained. I'm thinking about God's creation, whatever the museum is. let's say we'll make it easy. That's true. And there are things that a person, could really enjoy and really strengthen their belief in God. Okay. So again, I'll ask the $2 million question because we have the ante. $2 million question is this really what God wants? Is this in the spirit of what God wants? The spirit of what Shabbos is? Now, everyone should agree, not everyone will, but everyone should agree that's not the spirit of Shabbos. I didn't do anything wrong. You're right. When a person stuffs their face, technically they didn't really do anything wrong. Oh, that was such a good meal. I can't move. I feel like I'm going to burst. That's not what God wants. He wants you to enjoy food. That's true. He doesn't want you to go overboard. Totally doesn't want you to go overboard. Rav Yisrael Salanter, the founder of the Musar movement, the blessed memory, would say, even if you're very hungry, get a nice portion on your plate, leave something over. Leave a little bit over just to show you're not there to stuff your face and eat the whole plate. Now, some people, that's going to be hard. You can say, but I'm really hungry. I really enjoyed it. And they lick the plate. You ever seen people do that? They lick the plate. Like, okay, either get more food or like, what are you doing? Like, dogs also lick the plate. It's disgusting. You can say, doesn't say anywhere I'm told you can't do that. It's not etiquette. It's obvious. Even for non-Jews, even for the no-eyed laws, which they wouldn't be obligated in. Yeah, I would think that's obvious. You want to be like a dog? Go ahead, lick the plate. I see animals at the zoo do that. You want to be like an animal at the zoo just because you want to say I'm hungry and I lick the whole thing and I eat the whole thing and I lick the plate at the end? Okay. You're a pig. No offense. You're a pig. That's how pigs eat. Like ravaging hungry. Okay, I get it. Someone's hungry. But to eat everything, like you're licking the plate afterwards to show how good it was. There's a limit here. Again, technically speaking, Jew or non-Jew, they transgress anything over here? Maybe someone will say that's not going in the way of God. That's not going in the right, in the straight path. Maybe. I don't necessarily anything direct. But think about it. You'll say, what about etiquette? When I was looking for a sheep to learn it, someone told me, they said, before you even see how they learn and what they do, go there for lunch. I said, why? So they said, if you can eat with the people you learn with, if you want to learn with them, see how they eat. If they eat in a humanistic way, you can learn with them. If they eat like animals, what do you think the Torah is going to be worth? So you're going to tell me, aren't there people who don't have good manners? Yeah. I've seen it. Am I going to say everybody doesn't have good manners? No. Not going to say that. Right? But I've seen people that don't have the best manners. So I would say there's something lacking in the Torah because manners are close to godliness. That's what it is. How can someone be a God-fearing person and their manners are terrible? The way they keep themselves, the way they dress, it's terrible. Terrible. Yeah. Person got an obligation, especially if they're a rabbinic scholar. You go out with a spot on your shirt, you're liable for death penalty. Think about it. Liable for death penalty. Why? Because you have a greater obligation. Greater obligation. What, you don't care how you look in God's eyes? Okay, so a little spot here. I'm not talking about a huge thing. You had a little bit spot, you didn't have a chance to, you couldn't get it out, couldn't change your shirt, whatever, you're busy doing other things. It's a severe prohibition for them. You have to go out and look impeccable. I'm not saying you look in the mirror for 20 minutes, half an hour, make sure everything's good, this and that. No. Right? But you have an obligation to dress like a mensch. To dress in a way where you're going to look respected. You have to look respectful. You're going to say, but that's, isn't that externals? And don't you always say externals in general don't matter? Yeah. Externals in a lot of ways don't matter. You wear a white shirt, a black shirt, a blue shirt, this, that. You're right. Externals don't matter so much. Yeah. But how a person dresses matters. I remember someone came, I was, whatever, I'm not going to say where, someone in the substitute came in, person who normally gave the class wasn't there. This person came in. gave this class, whatever. Whatever was a good class, but what stood out? What do I remember more than what the person said? The way the person dressed. The way the person dressed. And I can tell you, the person looked like a slob. Total slob. Yeah, I'm not saying it's spots on his clothes and this and that, just unkempt. Just unkempt. That was the first thing that I noticed. I'm gonna say again, but that person could be a brilliant scholar. This and that. You're right. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying what the person knows. Could know tons, but if they don't dress well, if they look unkempt, shirt's not tucked in, they look like a schlep in my language. They could be the most brilliant person in the world. Yeah, and I'm not necessarily someone to get caught up in externals. But at the same time, that's a bit much. Or you see people that cough and sneeze and hack and this and that. They don't have manners. They don't cover themselves. Right? Forget about corona or anything else. It's just gross. It's gross. They say, well, you took some of the good things from America. Maybe. I don't think, I think someone should have good personal hygiene. They should. Yeah, nothing, I'm not gonna say it's nothing to do with Torah, right? You have to be respectful of others. So why do some people not respectful? I can't answer that. Some people, I don't think it's been reinforced in the house, and not necessarily going to be reinforced in school unless they're serious issues. Someone told me many years ago, and it was hard for me to understand. They said, there was a kid that was sent home, or whatever. There were problems in the house, so this probably explains it. But the kid went to school like, clothes were dirty, the kid smelled. That's what someone told me. I'll take them at face value, and let's say it's true. I don't suspect this person was lying. Yeah, let's say face value. Person told exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. Yeah. They can tell me there are problems in the house. Okay, then I can understand. The kids go out. They're not really kept very well. This, that. But at the same time, person has to be put together. You send your kids to school. They can't look like vagabonds. They can't look like they live on the street. Not only that, you send the kid is like, forget being ungroomed. That's already one thing. But the fact that okay, kid's dirty, whatever, looks dirty. But not only that, but the kid smells, you send him to school. I don't know, you send someone like that to school. So again, are there other problems going on? Yeah. There are other things going on. Okay. Yeah, but I've seen certain things. Just I want to talk about the way people drive. That's a whole other thing, right? How people sometimes treat one another. Different cultures, different things, right? Israel has its own culture, and if you're not used to it, it's hard. It's really hard to fathom. People sometimes cut in line. People sometimes obnoxious. Some people this, some people that. Right. So the question always is, so what happens in Torah? Aren't they being taught in schools? Haven't they been taught how to properly act? You'd say, of course. It's constantly being reinforced. So you can say either it's being reinforced in the wrong way, right? Or kids aren't getting it. Or, most likely it should come from home. But there's, I remember once, I use this as an example. Yeah, I was on my way to go learn. Went to pick something up in a grocery store. As I'm coming out, I see a kid has a popsicle. Right, with a popsicle. Into the wrapper on the floor. His father was right there. I knew his father. Right? So his father was right there. So I told him, I said, this place looks bad enough. You don't need to add to it. Your kid doesn't need to add to it, There's no reason he can't just go throw it away, garbage bin is right around the corner. Just tell him to throw it away. He's like, yeah, that's a good point. Thank you very much. Whatever. I have to tell somebody that this isn't obvious. You're gonna say, but I'm not talking about secular people. Secular people in a certain way. When it comes to these type of things, they're way above us. Way above us. You're gonna say, why should that be? Why can't that be reinforced in a community? That's a good question. some places are better than others. Okay. Why is that reinforced? So it starts at home. Parents don't understand. Again, I'm not caught up. Let's make clear. I'm not looking in, everyone's backyard and what they do and this and that. Yeah, but I see things. Yeah, secular people know better in some ways. Seen by them also. But we have a greater obligation. See, I don't want people coming to me and they say, see, your people, you ultra-Orthodox Jews, you do this, that, and the other thing. I don't do that. My kids don't do that. But we get a bad rap for some people that do. And for some people that don't care, they'll say, oh, they don't know anything. Well, who are they to say anything? And they do worse things. You're right. They may do 10 times worse things. Could be. Not going to deny it. Very true. But why even give them what to say? Don't give them anything to say, except for the fact that, wow, thank God his father taught him Torah. Thank God his Rebbe taught him Torah. That's what you want them to say. You don't want them to say, oh, look, another Orthodox Jew threw something on the floor. Another Orthodox Jew cut someone off on the road. That damage does not go away. All right? I've heard this many, many times. People will say, oh, did you hear about this, that, and the other thing? I said, yeah. Well, that's a terrible thing. I said, you're right. You're right. And if these Orthodox Jews, this and that, now they're putting me in the same category. Yeah, when they put me in the same category, then I stop. Then I say, listen, I didn't do that. My kids don't do that. My grandkids don't do that. There's some people that do. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not gonna say it's okay. But when you lump somebody together with other people and make a general statement, that is racist. Racist. Jews can be the biggest racists also. Secular Jews hate religious Jews. There are a lot of reasons why. Right? The main reason is because we think we're better than them. Sorry, they think we think we're better than them. And we look down upon them. Right? So that's the furthest from the truth. Right? All we want to do is live our lives. That's all we want to do. Be left alone. But they are right in a certain way. Because we disagree with how they live. We disagree with what they do. Right? That's for sure. I'm not, sometimes I'll say something to someone and say, yeah, that's wrong. And you have to know it's wrong. You have to know there's, people are going to be punished for certain things, this and that. True. Sometimes you have to give rebuke, even if they're not going to listen. Much complicated thing, but right. Sometimes you have to give rebuke, even if no one's going to listen. Okay. But at the same time, at the same time, the other side will be very quick to say something and they'll lump you together and be racist. Now, if I made a statement, that all Chinese people do this, or all blacks do this, or all Koreans do this, etc. What are they going to call me? A racist, because you're generalizing about a certain group, right? And you're saying things in a negative way. They do this, they do that, and the other thing. It's not true. Some more, some less, but that's a racist statement. If someone makes a statement against Orthodox Jews, we'll say, it's also a racist statement, even if they're Jewish. Right? And that's someone telling me this a number of times. The reason there's so many problems in Israel, right, is because of the right wing, because they hate the right wing. And who's part of the right wing? Us, the other Orthodox. All the problems that are going on in Israel today are because of us. And all the terrorist attacks, more terrorist attacks because of us. So my quick answer was, I said, you think when the left was in power, there were no terrorist attacks? Of course there are terrorist attacks. Right? Question is how many? Today there are more. Why are there more? So some are saying, I'm not saying it's 100% true, but some are saying, without getting into politics, the fact that you have all these people protesting against what's going on, on the judicial reform. So the Arabs say, oh, look, there's a discrepancy. There's a lot of infighting. Sorry, let's say better. There's a lot of infighting between Jews, in the government, outside the government. They're very weak now. They're very vulnerable now. Let's attack now. Let's have more attacks now. Right? So I've heard a number of people say this, that they think that's the reason, because Israel is quote unquote weak right now, they're gonna scale up the attacks. Could it be true? I don't know. Maybe it is. Right? But it has to do with what we do. Yeah, but this anyway, the point is that I told this person, I said, when we were in the opposition, when the right wing was in the opposition, and they ate anything right wing in America and here, but at the end of the day, when we were in the opposition and the left was in power, what do you think? There were no terrorist attacks? Of course there were terrorist attacks. You want to say they're left, this, that, okay, you can prove it statistically. But even if there were, doesn't mean it disappears. Oh, we're causing all the problems. We're causing that there's going to be a theocracy. Democracy is going to go out the window. You know how foolish that statement is? It just shows a lack of knowledge, total lack of knowledge. Yeah, so it's not about I think I'm better than this person. It had nothing to do with me thinking I'm better than any Jew or any non-Jew. What it happened, and I'm going to do this, there was this in my Q&A this week, either Tuesday or Thursday, see how far I get. Where someone makes statements, say, oh, but, we're going to kill non-Jews if they steal even a little bit. And it's purpose of non-Jews anyway. In the future, when the Messiah comes, they're only going to be a slave to us. They're going to do what, they're going to take care of us. Yeah. So you got to see, what the purpose of non-Jews are in the world. Another distorted thing here, right? But the idea over here is, let's not forget the point, is that it's not about me looking down on another Jew. What makes us different? What makes the Jewish people different? The fact we have Torah mitzvahs. The fact we do what God says, hopefully. That makes us different. That elevates the soul. Non-Jews don't have an elevated soul because they didn't accept the Torah. Now, if they want to convert and have that elevated soul and have a lot more to do, okay, that's their choice. If they don't want to convert, they want to stay in Noah, it's also their choice. That's fine. That also means they don't have an elevated soul still, but they can have a portion of the world to come. Why don't they have the same elevated soul? Because they have less to do. They have less commandments to do. Doesn't mean they can't have a portion of the world to come. I'm not saying they can't. Right? They certainly can. And they could have a bigger portion than we do if we don't do the right thing and, in a totally negative way. That certainly could happen. So therefore, back to my point here, I see there are questions, I'll take them in a second, that people complain and they see everything as being bad, they're not happy with what they have. Right? And a lot of people today not happy with what they have. No matter how much money they have, other things take away from it. Right? And they're jealous of others. They don't want to judge people favorably. Why? Because you think this person's so great, this, that, and the other thing. They're jealous. Right? It's a case of jealousy. Now, it goes even further. Not only are they not happy, not only do they not judge people favorably, what do? They go further than that. They say negative things about the rabbis. Who are the first people that got picked on? Us. Because we're not doing this, we're not doing that. And we get blamed. We get blamed for even saying what the truth is. Chief Sephardi Rabbi, Rabbi Yosef, got lambasted last year for saying that most of the Russians that came to Israel are non-Jews. They wanted, not only was the establishment upset by saying such a thing, they want to get rid of them. They want to demote him, get him and get rid of him. How would he say blasphemy? So he laughed. Said, all my detractors telling me I should step down. And it's illegal for what I said. Where did I get the information from? That's what he told them. He said, where'd the information come from? He says, you know where the information came from? I didn't make it up out of thin air. It came from the Jerusalem Bureau of Statistics. Your own information. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Toast. Use their own information against them. What, you want me to step down? Because I'm quoting your own sources? Who do they go after first? The rabbis. Yeah. So that means we have to be more careful what we say? No. Person has to tell the truth, even if it's hard. Even sometimes no one's going to listen. You got to stand up for what the truth is. Someone who's giving over Torah and mitzvahs, got to be strong. Can't be a wuss in my language. Got to have broad shoulders. Let people talk. Let people say, so what? Well, I care what they say. Yeah, if it's wrong and it's proven wrong, okay. That's a different issue. But what are they going to do? How far does this go? So they're gonna see everything's being bad. They're gonna blame the rabbis. They're gonna have doubts about major tenets of Judaism because whatever they see or whatever their skewed view is, and where oral law comes from. Why do I have to listen to the rabbis anyway? They're just a bunch of rabbis, God forbid. I don't care what it says in Deuteronomy chapter 17. Then you have to listen to a Levi and a Kohen in every generation, no matter what they say. Left is right, right is left. And if you don't listen to them, you get the death penalty. No, I don't hold that. I don't hold that. My opinion is just as valid as theirs. Right? They don't merit to understand the Torah and only skew its message. People like that, I'm going to tell everybody here. It's a good thing we're recording, right? I'm going to tell everybody the following, and I'm not cursing anybody at all, right? I want people to understand one major thing, right? And that is that if you don't listen to what the rabbis tell you to do, meaning that we have to understand things to the best of our ability. Yeah. Rabbi mentioned this week's parsha, he says that on the 8th day, right, there's a command to do circumcision. Really, we learn it out from Abraham, but the mitzvah is brought down in the parsha we just read. So he says, so he's saying that the mitzvah bris milah, we don't, why on the 8th day? Anyone ever think why on the 8th day? So I'll tell you why, because the Torah says 8th day. The Torah says you have to go through Shabbos. Well, the Torah doesn't, but commentaries tell us you have to go through Shabbos. Maybe you have to go through Shabbos, and to heal and this and whatever, all these things. Sorry, not to heal before circumcision, but whatever obligations that a child has to go through Shabbos, and experience Shabbos first, even if they don't know what's going on and this and that. There are other things going on, but the Torah says you got to do it on the 8th day. Yeah, as long as the baby's healthy, even if the 8th day is on Shabbos. Yeah, very good. Very good. So, the Torah give me a reason? No. Now, sometimes my Rebbe here says, sometimes he brings down the name of his ancestors, the 8th generation descendant from the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Elijah Vilna through his mother. So he quotes the Vilna Gaon a lot. And he says that, according to the Vilna Gaon, he says that even if the Torah gives a reason, or the Rambam, others try and find reasons for the mitzvahs, it's not the reason. They may try and understand it one way, another way, whatever, but it's not the reason. It could have been 100 reasons, 1,000 reasons, right? We don't know. And the rabbis don't have an obligation to tell us everything. They told us something. Other things, they didn't tell us anything. They just said, this is what you have to do. This is your obligation. Yeah. And that's the way they see it. That's what we hold. That's what we hold. Reason? Don't know. We don't know, but this is hard. This is probably the hardest thing, besides moving to a community, that a non-Jew, whether they convert or not, coming out of Christianity, what's the hardest thing for them in general? And that is they have to listen to authority. They have to listen to rabbinic authority. Rabbinic authority to them, why should they listen? They'll say their understanding is just as good. Yeah. Their understanding is skewed over here. Skewed because they learned stuff from the Old Testament. It's all wrong. Totally wrong. That I tell people all the time, go through the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Just read it very quickly through with a proper translation. Right? Get any chumash from ArtScroll, go to artscroll.com, give them a plug now. Right? Go through them, get a good translation, just read it. Forget about thinking questions, this, that, read it. First of all, see what the real translation is. And then you go back. And week by week, you should go through it. Think about it. See some of the commentaries if possible. What it means. What it represents. Because there are a lot of things you're going to see don't make sense. 80% of the Torah. Right? I've heard from people say, well, I thought this before, and now this totally blows out of the water. Yeah. Because you're not dealing with oral law. You're dealing with other people put their mistranslation or put their quote unquote their own information in there. So wrong. 100% it's wrong. So now people are going to complain, oh, what I have to listen to the rabbis and oral law and this and that. Right? We say over here is one of the commentaries point out, they do such a thing, they will not merit to understand Torah. They're only going to skew its message. So it's not a curse. I'm not cursing anyone here, right? This is what we call the Metzias. This is the way it is. If a person doesn't have someone to teach them, doesn't have a mentor, this, that, they will not get anywhere. You will not understand Torah. You cannot understand Torah on your own. Now, that doesn't mean you can't learn on your own, right? Plenty of good books out there. A lot of good books in English. Go to artschool.com. A lot of good books on Chumash, Jewish law. Many, many things to read. You get, if you have a credit card, be careful. You go nuts. Plenty of things to read to understand. Okay. Yeah, but you have to do it on proper guidance. If you don't do it on proper guidance, or even without this, and you think you're going to get it by yourself, though, first blog piece I ever put in was, don't think a person goes through the conversion process by themselves. They can't. It's an impossibility, right? Why is it an impossibility? It's not because a person, has a 25 IQ. No, it's not a person is stupid. We're not saying that. There's a lot of knowledge here. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to navigate. There are a lot of questions people are going to have, legitimate questions. Yeah, but one thing has to be done. And I mentioned this many times. I'm going to continue to mention it. And that is, what needs to be done is just like the Jewish people accepted the Torah on Mount Sinai. What did the Jewish people say? We said, Na'aseh v'nishma. We are going to do, then we're going to hear, God, you have a track record. We don't care what you tell us to do. We're going to do whatever you tell us to do. Yeah, that's not a leap of faith here. But the more you learn, the more you realize how right the rabbis are, how well their understanding is, much more than we could in 10 lifetimes. So for secular Jews, they're going to say, this is what I think. I don't go with the rabbi saying, I'm going to do what I want. Okay. That's their choice. They don't want to lay themselves down. And what's going to happen? Exactly this. They won't understand Torah. They'll skew its message. That's what they're going to do. They're not going to get to what they need to based on their own desires and their own whims and all that. Right? They won't get anywhere. And I've seen it time and time again. Time and time again, people do what they want. They don't want guidance. They think they can do whatever. Okay. Where are they going to end up? This is where they're going to end up. They're going to end up not understanding Torah. Clear. I mean, this is not even something like I'm fishing at straws, over here. Like looking for a needle in a haystack. This is obvious. Obvious. Again, 30 years I've seen it. More than 30 years. I've seen, clear as day. You don't want to understand the Torah. You want to twist it into a pretzel. And I think this and I think that. Where are you going to end up? Nowhere. And if you have kids, the kids will end up nowhere, even worse. They'll do what they do. You'll do what you do. Yeah, if you don't believe in Torah mitzvahs, it's not going to go. Cannot be passed down. Reform can't do that. 50, 60% into marriage. Gay rabbis and all that. You got that. Reform, conservative, not much better. Right? Definitely not much better. Modern Orthodox only 10 years behind them. Yeah, I'm not saying everybody. Certainly not. But they also skew a lot of things. There are many Orthodox rabbis in that group. Among modern Orthodox rabbis, think, LGBTQ, whatever. We have to, draw them close. We have to encourage them. We have to this. We have to that. It's sad. Guarantee someone in that situation. Yeah. Someone said, what would you do if you had your own synagogue? So I said, you want to come, but, you're never going to make a kiddush here. You'll never be called up to the Torah, right? You're not going to have any privileges here. You want to come, but, there's no way we can condone it. Modern Orthodox world, they're going to condone it. That's what's out there. Okay? It's more prevalent in that world. Definitely more prevalent. Yeah. They're going to say, that's cruel. We got to empathize. I didn't say not to empathize. But they have to know. They have to know where you stand. They want help. They want guidance. Okay. Call them to the Torah. Right? I should call them to the Torah. It's like calling someone who's intermarried to the Torah. How could you call them to the Torah? They can't make a blessing. It's a blessing in vain. What's the blessing you make being called to the Torah? You're saying you chose us among the nations. Can't say that. You're intermarried. How can you make such a claim? Can't make such a claim. The travesty of a mockery of a sham. Someone like this, we're talking about really severe sins here. You can't just say, we're going to whitewash it because they gave a lot of money or whatever. Right? Yeah, you have to empathize. I agree. Try and work with them. Try and, do what you can. Right? But you got to lay down the law. There are certain things that's not acceptable. That's it. Torah says it's not acceptable. an Orthodox rabbi saying people are not going to get, struck down because of it. He's a heretic. He's an absolute heretic. What do you do with Leviticus chapter 18? You can't say that. I agree. It's sad. I do have empathy. What are you going to do? Torah says what it says. If there be a temple in Jerusalem, you kill him. Yeah, you're going to say, what about what they went through? What about this? I agree. It's a sad thing. I'm not saying that. But what are you going to do? You can't change the Torah. There are certain things that are worse than others. Desecration of Shabbat, same thing. Also liable for death penalty. Adultery, same thing. Liable for death penalty. There are things that are liable for death penalty. It's not the point. The point is you don't condone it. You can't condone it. I've heard people say, well, you have to this. I don't. I don't have to condone anything. It's wrong. Oh, that's discrimination. Okay, so Torah discriminates. Torah discriminates against non-Jews. Torah discriminates against pork, against camel meat. Rabbits can't eat rabbit. All kinds of things. Yeah. So we have an image problem. Could be. But there are things you can't get around. And the things you can't get around, Kaufman says you can't turn the Torah into a pretzel. Thank you very much. Right? Torah's not silly putty. Not like a shrinky dink. You remember shrinky dinks? Put these things in the oven, they grow, whatever. You can't do that. That's not what the Torah is. There's a right way to do things, wrong way to do things. Right? That's why secular Jews hate religious Jews, because what we represent, we're telling them without saying specifically what you're doing is wrong. So they have an inferiority complex. True? Right? Okay. But someone's got to pin you down and say, is this right or wrong? It's wrong. Oh, I think differently. I think, so what? We hold it's wrong. That's why they don't want it. That's why they're against us. They want us to be like them. So sorry, not going to happen. Totally not going to happen. But a person has to realize there's the right way, the wrong way. That's it. Can't be wishy-washy. Even if people don't like it. You tell them, go eat kugel. You don't like it, go eat kugel. What can I do? And I think you're closed-minded. I think this stuff. Okay. Heard this last week. I think this, that, and the other thing. Okay. So think it. I'm only going to be disrespectful and say, really, you've never learned anything. You don't really know that much. So if you're telling me what you're feeling, okay. But that doesn't mean anything. What I feel in my heart's irrelevant. What I feel based on knowledge and sources, okay, let's have a discussion. Yeah, let's have a discussion. A few questions here I want to deal with. One, someone asks, how can someone become a true Baal Tshuva? Right, someone who really repents. I mean, the question is, how do you destroy your past life from your mind? Yeah, how do you abandon, the old you? Right? So, I've heard people say, use myself as an example, someone once told me at a discussion, whatever, I made a joke, I made a statement, whatever it was. Oh, that's the old one I remember. Yeah, because you don't like what I say. That's truthful. You don't like, when the statement about how many people intermarrying, how it's destroying Judah, you don't like that. Doesn't fit your world agenda, yeah? But the person said, oh, but that's the old you. Yeah, the old me has not changed, right? I mean, I'm not as obnoxious as I used to be, and whatever. But, essentially, I'm the same person. Value is totally different. True, right? That is very true. Can a person cut off their past in a split second? No. That is a misnomer. That a person, I'm going to be, an Orthodox Jew, and I'm going to walk the walk and talk the talk, but I'm still the same person. Are you the same person here? Are you still doing the same things you did, when before you were religious? That's a problem. That is definitely a problem. Okay, so a person's a work in progress. We're all work in progress. I'll give an example. If someone grew up from when they were a kid, and they were a huge sports fan, let's say. How does a person give that up when they realize how stupid it is, and what a waste of time it is, and how enjoyable it is? Does that happen overnight? Doesn't happen overnight. Does not happen overnight. I'll tell you like this, the more we're steeped in Torah mitzvahs, the more we're going to change. The more these things should not matter anymore. What if they do? Okay, we have what to work on. Do we erase it 100%? It's part of our psyche. Doesn't get erased 100%. But see, when does the person sin? The Gemara says the person sins when nichnas bo ruach shtus. When enters the person a foolish thoughts. Because if you want to be close to God, you understand what the reward and punishment is. You understand what's going on, how life works. How could you ever sin? Because what do you mean? I have an evil inclination. Everyone's got an evil inclination. So it's hard. It's hard not to sin. Okay. Yeah. But a person only sins when they have free time. When they have free time. When they're bored, let's say. You should be learning. And what if you're too tired, you can't, this, that. Okay. But you don't leave your mind open so you can sin. Even if you can't read, you learn stuff that are heavier, learn stuff that's lighter. A person can learn Tanakh, it's lighter. A person can learn Musar, it's lighter. Jewish philosophy, it's lighter. Yeah. So a person has a fixed time to learn, but you have to be totally immersed. The only way you get around any of these bad thoughts or whatever when you grew up or it happened years ago, the only way to get out of it, get around it, even though it's part of your psyche, is to be steeped in Torah all the time. But you'll say it's hard. I get tired. This applies more to men than to women, but women also. They have an obligation to learn, to a certain extent, right? They should be busy going to classes and this and that. You got to implement what you learn. It's not easy, especially with an environment that's bad, right? It's hard. There's no question. I'm just telling you, the more a person's steeped in the Torah, the easier it is. Then these other things don't matter. They don't matter. They won't come up unless the person's, quote unquote, bored, and then they start thinking of other things and want to go back to bad habits. How do you break bad habits? It's hard. The only thing I can say is that the more a person learns, and they learn what the values are, they learn, Musar every day for a certain amount of time, if possible. They realize what their purpose in life is without worrying about going to fry in hell forever or not fry in hell forever, right? Whatever the case is. I'll say like this. Think about the action you're going to do. Think about, you're going back to your original thoughts and original things, yeah? Think about the action you're about to do or think about. And then realize, what's my purpose in the world? What does God want from me? Is this drawing me closer to him or further away? He's going to say, but when a person is steeped in desire, whatever it may be, that's not going to help, right? So what does the Gemara say? A person's going to sin, first thing you say the Shema. That doesn't work, go to the study hall. You can't go to the study hall thinking the day of your death. Think in ways where you're not going to do it, where it's not, you gotta make boundaries among boundaries among boundaries to make sure you don't go back and start doing the same thing. Yeah. Now, could it be over time? We use a sports example. Yeah. The person stops following this and that, but every so often they hear that their team's in the playoffs or, whatever. So, it doesn't get them to change that much, but what does it do? Maybe it gives them like a little bit of enjoyment. They win, they lost, this, that, but bottom line, it should be much less over time. Why should it be much less? It should be much less because a person realized a bigger scheme. And the bigger scheme is a waste of time. It could have been learning Torah. God does not forgive that, by the way. A person could have learned Torah and they wasted their time. Doesn't forgive that. If a person does terrible things, immorality, idolatry, or murder, God can forgive that. Person repents. Wasted time and they could have learned. Yeah, God doesn't forgive. Right? What if it's something you can't avoid every day? Right? Lashon hara. How can you got to work on it. It's very easy to give up. Right? The Chofetz Chaim says in the laws of Lashon hara, he said that everyone transgresses at least a vak Lashon hara, something that's like the dust of Lashon hara. Certain things that you might not think is Lashon hara, which actually is, which most people, if not everybody, sometimes sinning. Okay? Yeah. So, it's like throwing in the towel. You're going to say, well, I do, this comes up all the time. I do it all the time, so forget it. I wouldn't say forget it. You're going to work on it. Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes time. It takes effort. You fail the first time, you might fail the second time, third time. So I tell you, if it's something, whatever the person may fail in, learn that subject very well. I'll tell you, if you're worried about, every day you fail in the laws of Lashon Hara, go read the introduction. Go read the Chofetz Chaim's introduction. And it'll tell you over 31 verses, positive commands, negative commands, and a whole bunch of curses a person gets. So now you're going to say, but I still transgress. Think about it. I'm not saying it's easy, but think about what's going on here. Every time you speak Lashon Hara, you heard Lashon Hara, 31 prohibitions. 31 prohibitions. That doesn't register? You're going to say, that doesn't matter. Why does it matter? It's a severe prohibition. The more you learn about it, you see it's complicated. Okay. Is it easy to overcome? No. But I could say, you know what? Everybody transgresses it anyway. There's no way for me around it, so I'm not going to bother. Well, you can do that. You're going to transgress for sure. You got to take it in sound bites. You got to, learn the laws, learn how they apply, work on it. And something's not easy. I agree. I agree. What does it mean you can't avoid it? That sounds like a cop-out. That just sounds like, wow, it happens all the time. I hear people speaking of it, so what am I supposed to do? Learn the laws. Learn the laws. Your own people that speak Lashon Hara, you can't believe what they say. You cannot believe 100% what they say, even if it's true. You have to hold it as a doubt. Because if you just listen, you believe what they say, you're in trouble. That according to everybody, you're in trouble. So how do you get around it? Try and change the subject. Try and leave. You can't do either. You can't believe what they say 100%. You have to leave it in doubt. Right? If it's something that could possibly damage you, you're allowed to take precaution, but you're not allowed to believe it 100%. There are ways. You got to learn the laws. You got to see how they apply. Right? And you got to work around, issues. I was in the States, I'll tell you this, I heard people speaking about all kinds of people, on a daily basis. So what did I do? I just didn't listen. I didn't listen to who they were speaking about, I didn't really care who they were speaking about, etc. And even what they said, this is 100% true, let's say it was. So I don't believe it. I made sure not to believe it. I was thinking other things. Happen all the time. Yeah. Sometimes I changed the subject. Sometimes I was able to walk out of the room. Other times I couldn't do either. I just let it go. I didn't, I say, oh, it's Lashon Hara. What are you saying? No one's going to listen. Yeah. So in my own mind, I wasn't listening. I was thinking of other things. More important things, I hope. I don't remember 100%, but, different things. Different things. Sometimes you're in a position you can't do anything. Right? If you're in a work environment, same thing. Right? It happens a lot. I'm talking about secular people who are non-Jews. Fine. But, you have to know what to do in such a situation. They're going to say, but it's very hard. Okay. Yeah, and it's hard. There's no question. But I was around a lot of people, yes, a lot of whatever they said. I was like half listening, if that. Right? So if you don't hear it, you hear what they say, but you're not really paying attention. You're not thinking about it, and whatever. Much better. Definitely much better. Or I'll say like this: what do? You're going around somewhere, and someone cuts the car off, or they do something or whatever, and the person curses. You're sitting right there. Can you don't want to curse. You don't want to hear anyone else curse. Right? But what happened over here? They cursed. So you heard it. So for whatever reason, you had to hear it. Okay. I didn't have intention. I don't want anyone to curse. They did. Okay, it's their choice. I heard this a number of times. What am I going to say? I really appreciate if you didn't curse. I'm not even gonna say what that reaction would bring. Right? What that person would say back. I'm not even gonna say. It wouldn't be pleasant. I can tell you that. They would, not only that, they wouldn't even care. We'll say better. They wouldn't even care. What would they say? It's the way I speak, you don't like it, deal with it. That's what they would say. Most likely. All right, come on, are you for real? All right, so, so what? So what if I cursed? Yeah. To me, there wasn't even a point to say anything. I'd rather just sit there and look stupid than, or, maybe I should have said something, but, in this case, I don't think, certainly nothing would have come out of it, then would have been just totally negative. I could hear the conversation. You believe, the person said to me, I'm not allowed to curse. Like, who are they? They think they're holier than thou. Forget it. I'm not saying it's a good situation to be in. They're never going to listen. They're never going to hear it. Right? So it's hard. And if you're around people that curse all the time, person in the work environment, I've got this question a lot also. It's hard. So in the best of situations, even if you can't stop it, at least think in your mind, at least I'm not like them. At least I don't think like that. It's depressing. The way people act, the way people live. Okay, can't change the world. I change myself. Can't change the world. It's annoying. You hear someone curse. I haven't heard someone curse in a long time. In a long time. But okay, person cursed, said what they said. What are you supposed to do? I should curse them back. Not going to curse them back. Just as bad. But it shows sensitivity. That you are now more sensitive when a person speaks like that, okay? But not a good situation to be in. I didn't ask for it. Never didn't ask for it. I had certain things I would have loved to have said something. Trust me. Would have loved to have said something. But you know what? At the end of the day, the people didn't know. There was a certain thing they didn't know, okay? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but they probably didn't. Because if they did know, they would have realized they should have kept their mouth shut, but they didn't. So I tell them, like, are you saying, like, I was like, come on. You realize I'm sitting here. So obviously they didn't realize. They didn't realize. Okay. Yeah. So I just like, you move on. But, every single day I was there was depressing. Hear conversations, people are doing this, that, depressing. I didn't ask for it, but I was aware it's going to happen. All kinds of different situations. Yeah. So what do you do? What do you do in such a case? So you take it for what it is. You think different things in your mind. You can't believe Lashon Hara. You move on. If you can walk out of the room, good. If you can change the subject, good. If you can't do either, if they say something that they're going to say is 100% true, you can't believe it 100%. If you believe it, then you transgress the laws of Lashon Hara. Yeah, so the things you try and do if they don't work, right? You're allowed to guard yourself against what the person says, but you can't believe it 100%. But you're right. Person transgresses all the time. So learn it. Learn it again. Go over the laws again. Learn 2 laws a day. Go through it more. That's the only way. There's no easy way over here. You say, but it happens all the time. And I do this all the time also. Okay, stop it. Work on trying to stop it, whatever it is. Make a plan. How are you going to stop it? You're going to say, but it's hard, right? You're right. Nobody says life is easy. Nobody says life is easy. You got to start somewhere. You got to break bad habits. That's what you got to do. It's a change of mentality. It's a change of outlook. That's the only way. That is the only way. I guarantee you, I promise, Bli Neder without a vow here. I should say I promise, right? The more a person works on the way they think and they change the way they think, that's going to be a game changer over time. Over time, it's going to change. It's not going to happen overnight. Doesn't matter, you made a mistake today, tomorrow, the next day, a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later. The more a person taps in, their mentality changes. It will change. But it's going to take time. You got to give yourself time. I agree. It's aggravating that we live in an instantaneous generation. We want everything now, everything to happen now. We don't want to work hard. We want everything to be the way it should and do the way it doesn't work that way. You got to be in for the long haul. That's the bottom line. You got to be in for the long haul. If you're not in for the long haul, you're looking for a quick fix, forget it. I'll be totally depressing here. Forget it. It's never going to happen. Never going to happen. You got to be in for the long haul. And it could take a long time for certain things to get out of your head, okay? Wherever a person grew up, they have to get that garbage out of their head for how they were taught. Right? Roberto, one of the Torah giants of the last generation, used to say, anyone who grew up in America, take you your whole lifetime to get this garbage out of your head. The way they think, what they do, other things. It's true. Every place according to what it is. Yeah, it's hard because we grew up a certain way. We see things a certain way. We heard things, that. It's hard to break that 100%. But I will tell you, the more you're steeped in the Torah and mitzvahs, these things just go by the wayside eventually. But if you let it come in and you're back and forth, it's harder. You got to try and work hard to eradicate it. That's what I would say. Someone here answered, I'm not exactly sure the question. I explain Isaiah in my own words. No. I'm not giving a class on Isaiah. That's not that's not the purpose. It's complicated. I'm working actually. Interesting. So I have certain times when I learn Tanakh. I've been going through this for a number of years. I'm holding by actually, I think the 7th or 8th chapter of Isaiah. A little bit behind now, but try and learn a couple verses, whatever. Working my way through. It's a long book. A long, complicated book. Yeah, to go through. So if you have specific verses you want to know about, you can ask. All right, but in general, how would I put it in my own words? Depends what you're talking. Depends what he's talking about. Yeah, any other there's another topic here, but I'm not going to get to now. But I just want to point out, again, without proper guidance, and a person going to be jealous of others, think everything is bad. A person will come out against every single tenet, of Judaism. They'll go against the rabbis. They'll go against oral law. They will, this is a crucial thing. Person thinks they're going to do it on their own. I've heard this many times. People will say, God's going to tell me. God's going to give the answer. Yeah, there's no prophecy today. Prophecy is only in the hands of little kids or imbeciles. Right? Ruach HaKodesh, there is divine inspiration, which is the lowest form of prophecy. That's for major rabbis of the generation. That's it. All the other Orthodox Jews, even non-Jews, not going to happen. Not going to happen. So a person wants to learn on their own, or they think they know better. They want to reinvent the wheel. What are we saying over here? You will not understand Torah. That's the bottom line. It's not going to be understood. As much as you try, it's going to be skewed. Totally skewed. Yeah. And that's why it's crucial to have someone to teach. You have to listen to someone who you're willing to listen to. Right? Someone's a mentor, it's a rabbi, somebody. Right? In order to go down the right path. Because if not, as Kaufman would say, you'll spin your wheels. Doesn't mean I'm a prophet by any stretch. Yeah. But someone wants good advice, or advice in general, wants to go in the right path. God's going to put someone in your path to help you. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. By any stretch. And the hardest part, as we said before, is to actually listen. Part of me says it shouldn't be that hard. The only reason is because most things everyone's learned is wrong. Right? So you got to start from scratch. I mean, it is humbling, I would agree. A humbling experience. But at the same time, okay, what are you going to do? Everything you learned up until this point is wrong. Again, you have to learn on your own as well. You have to listen to classes as well. Very good. But you have to remember, you have to have humility. You have to realize, what you learned is wrong. And some things are going to be hard to fathom, until you see the bigger picture and you buy into the bigger picture. Once you buy into the bigger picture and you see how it works, okay, then I'm not saying there aren't questions. There are still questions. Won't be the same. Right? As I mentioned last week, it's going to depend how you're going to ask the question also. Right? We're going to deal with that this week, in the coming Q&As. Yeah. Let me see. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Saturday, 2:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Israel time. Tomorrow, back on schedule, Book of Leviticus, chapter 16, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Chaim Kaufman, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism on YouTube. Right, I got videos there on Pirke Avos. Right, spoke tonight, Ethics of Our Fathers, Q&As, controversial issues, Torah portion of the week. Or you can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBIChaimCoffman @gmail.com, whichever a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, or end